The Intergalactic Council's chamber floated in orbit above a pale green gas giant, its polished metal walls rippling with the reflections of 40 alien species. The hum of translation drones filled the air, an orchestra of artificial politeness. On the central platform, one human stood among them. Captain Nathan Briggs, Earth's representative, 36 years old, wearing a pressed navy blue uniform and the most disarming smile in the room. He had been smiling for 2 hours straight. "Let the record show," boomed the cloth Dominion delegate, a reptilian aristocrat with jeweled scales and the voice of a broken chainsaw, "that the Terran species is deemed emotionally unstable and evolutionarily impulsive. Their war history reads like a manual for extinction." Murmurs of agreement rolled through the chamber. The jellyfish-like representatives of the Chular pulsed in irritation. The feathered Lna counselors fluffed their wings in disdain. A few turned their photoreceptors toward Nathan, who nodded pleasantly as if complimented. He waited for the silence, then pressed the activation panel on his podium. His voice was calm, soft, and entirely out of place among the echoing alien acoustics. "Captain Nathan Briggs, representing the Terran Union. Thank you for your candid feedback." He paused, his smile warm. "You've done your research. We do have a colorful history. But to be fair, it's been, only a century since our last nuclear misunderstanding. Progress takes time." The line drew a few chuckles from younger alien diplomats who hadn't yet learned to fear sarcasm. The cloth envoy's frilled tail twitched. "Progress? Your kind burned its own sky. You eat other species for recreation, and record it as entertainment. You weaponize chemistry for taste." "That's called cooking," Nathan said kindly. "You'd love barbecue." The chamber buzzed. The Chular ambassador rippled her tendrils in offense. "You see? Barbaric humor." From behind Nathan, his team exchanged glances. Dr. Lena Cho, the mission's astrophysicist, stifled a laugh. The Texan engineer Mason Cole whispered, "Reckon these lizards ain't never had ribs." The council moderator, a luminous being of living plasma, interjected. "Captain Briggs, the council finds humanity's behavioral unpredictability concerning. Your expansion rate, your history of internal conflict, your affection for chaos." Nathan clasped his hands behind his back. "We prefer to call it curiosity." A murmur swept the room again. The council leader, an ancient creature of translucent skin and pulsating organs, tilted its head. "Curiosity," it repeated slowly, as though tasting the word. "And yet your curiosity built weapons that scarred half your planet." Nathan's eyes softened. "And it also built music, medicine, and stories that healed the other half. We just like to experiment on both ends." The Lna delegate scoffed. "Dangerous duality. The galaxy cannot afford to indulge such volatility." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "Understood. But if you think humans are volatile, you should see us before coffee." Laughter, uneasy but genuine, rippled through several seats. The council leader sighed, weary of human idioms. "The decision stands. The Terran Union will be placed under restricted observation. No access to hyperspace lanes beyond Sol. No trade privileges. No diplomatic immunity." A data sigil flashed across the chamber, sealing the decree. Nathan's expression didn't change. His heartbeat didn't quicken. The smile simply held, unwavering. "We appreciate your hospitality," he said evenly. "We'll, of course, comply with your generosity." The cloth envoy sneered, satisfied. "Perhaps one day, you'll learn restraint." Nathan's gaze flickered, not with anger but amusement. "Oh, we learn fast." It was such an ordinary sentence, so politely spoken, that it slipped past most ears unnoticed. Only the Chular ambassador tilted her bell-shaped body, sensing something in his tone, an undertone of promise, or perhaps warning. After the verdict, the chamber dissolved into chatter. Alien journalists floated close, their cameras humming. "Captain Briggs, what will Earth do now that it's been officially demoted?" One asked in a dozen translated tongues. Nathan smiled for the 1,000th time. "We'll do what humans always do when grounded," he said, walking toward the exit with his team. We'll build something to leave anyway. As they stepped into the docking corridor, Mason leaned close. They really think we'll take this sitting down? Lena adjusted her glasses, her tone wry. They don't think we can even reach them. They jammed our beacons and cut supply lines. Nathan stopped beside the viewport, gazing out at the glittering spread of alien vessels orbiting the station like a halo of arrogance. Every time someone locks us out, he murmured, we end up building a bigger door. The intern, a fresh-faced cadet named Omar, frowned. Sir, was that permission to build something? Nathan's grin widened just slightly. It's an invitation to learn. The shuttle descended through the Council's docking web, slipping beneath ships that dwarfed their small vessel. Alien crew members watched through transparent hulls, some pitying, others smirking. The humans looked harmless, 5 tiny creatures in a tin can, heading back to their backwater planet. Inside, Mason flipped switches with casual efficiency. We playin' nice or playin' dumb, Captain? Nathan reclined in his seat, voice still calm. Neither. We're playing human. Lena glanced at him. Which means? It means, he said softly, we take notes while they laugh. The shuttle's engines roared as they entered slipstream space, light bending across the windshield. The view fractured into streaks of blue and gold. Behind them, the Intergalactic Council continued its session, already turning to the next agenda, a motion to allocate resources for potential human containment. By the time the vote passed, every human ship had vanished from galactic communication grids. A few hours later, somewhere between Saturn's rings and the dark silence of the Oort cloud, Nathan's crew gathered around a flickering holographic table. The data feed showed alien networks celebrating Earth's sanction, memes, propaganda, and lectures on civilized restraint. Lena leaned forward. They've quarantined our outposts. Cut trade. Blocked comms. Mason smirked. Ain't that cute? They think they can out-stubborn the species that invented the DMV. Omar blinked. What's the DMV? Hell on wheels, Mason said. Nathan chuckled quietly, eyes fixed on the display. His hand traced a small circle over the star map, a region labeled Terran Quarantine Zone. They think this is containment, he murmured. They don't see it yet. Lena studied him. See what? He looked up, the easy smile fading into something sharper, older. The thing about humans, he said, is that we always learn faster under pressure. Every cage they build for us becomes a classroom. Outside the ship, the infinite dark stretched silent and endless. Inside, the human crew exchanged glances, half nervous, half exhilarated. Nathan leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment, hearing the faint hum of engines like a heartbeat. He opened them again, and his voice, though quiet, carried weight. They've just given us what we needed most. Lena frowned. Which is? He smiled again, the same gentle curve of lips he'd worn before the council, but this time it felt different, measured, dangerous, like the moment before thunder. Time, he said. No one spoke after that. The stars outside seemed to pulse in rhythm with the engines, each light a witness to something waking beneath the calm. Far away, in a hidden Terran relay drifting near Neptune, encrypted signals began to flicker to life. One by one, the dormant satellites of the old Earth defense grid warmed up, whispering to each other across the dark void, unnoticed by alien ears. Back aboard the shuttle, Nathan glanced once more toward the Council's fading signal on the comm feed, and murmured to himself, almost kindly, "Let's give the galaxy a lesson worth remembering." The transmission light blinked red. The feed went silent. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, Earth stopped talking back. The first strike wasn't loud. It was confusing. 3 days after the Council's sanction, the Cloth Dominion sent 12 cruisers to inspect a Terran mining outpost on Europa. They expected surrender. Instead, they found the station completely abandoned. Lights on, doors open, coffee still steaming on the tables. Captain Vornak of the Dominion sneered. Pathetic. They fled. His second officer hesitated. Sir, the station's AI is requesting a security clearance, in Terran standard. Vornak snarled. Ignore it. Strip their data cores. The crew obeyed. They plugged into the station's network, transferring terabytes of information, schematics, research logs, entertainment archives. Within hours, the Dominion fleet returned to their capital, proud of their decisive victory. 2 rotations later, the Dominion's communications grid crashed. Warships drifted powerless. Every console, every datapad, every automated defense turret froze mid-operation and began playing the same sound. A man's voice softly singing, "Take me home, country roads." The lyrics repeated endlessly, echoing through the metallic corridors of 1,000 ships. It was maddening, gentle, nostalgic, and somehow horrifying. The cloth called it the song virus. Within a day, it had spread to other allied networks. Within 3, it reached the Council's central servers. At the heart of it all, Nathan Briggs sat in a dimly lit room under the mountains of Colorado, watching as red dots blinked across a holographic star map, each one representing a crippled fleet. His face remained expressionless. Lena leaned over his shoulder, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "You hit a counter-AI inside movies?" Nathan nodded. "Romantic comedies, specifically. No one ever checks the metadata in those." Mason whistled low. "You're telling me the Galactic Armada's fallen apart because of Notting Hill?" "Technically," Nathan said, "because of the credits." He turned to the crew behind him. Engineers, hackers, linguists, volunteers who had agreed to vanish from the public eye after Earth's quarantine. They worked in silence now, illuminated by the bluish glow of screens. Outside the bunker, snow whispered against the mountains, indifferent to galactic chaos. Lena scrolled through intercepted alien transmissions. "They're panicking. The Council's accusing the Dominion of starting a cyber war." Nathan's lips twitched. "Divide and conquer. They'll do half the work for us." He poured himself coffee, black and steaming, and stood by the window. The earth below looked peaceful, too peaceful for the scale of what they'd unleashed. He thought of the council chamber, the laughter, the condescension. Humans were impulsive, they'd said. Unstable. Too emotional. Maybe. But they learned. At that moment, across the galaxy, a cloth battleship attempted to reboot. The virus had evolved. Now, every time they tried to wipe the code, the system played a different Terran song. Some ships heard Sinatra. Others, Queen. One admiral's flagship broadcast Sweet Caroline at full volume for 16 hours before its engines overheated. The Dominion declared a state of emergency. Their economy collapsed in 6 days. News feeds across the galaxy exploded with speculation. Was this retaliation? Was it an accident? The humans said nothing. Their transmissions were silent. Nathan's team intercepted a council emergency meeting feed. On the screen, alien leaders shouted accusations at each other. The Chular ambassador's tendrils flashed crimson. This is human trickery. Their code infects thought. It mimics laughter. The LNA delegate hissed, feathers puffed. Impossible. Primitive species can't manipulate AI at quantum scale. Nathan sipped his coffee, muttering to Mason. That's the thing about primitives. We always start simple. The council's moderator tried to restore order. Calm yourselves. We will demand an explanation from the Terrans. A new voice interrupted the broadcast. Smooth, calm, and unmistakably human. Good morning, council members. The chamber went silent. The hologram of Captain Nathan Briggs appeared midair, projected from an unknown source. I'd like to apologize for the inconvenience, he said pleasantly. We sent those entertainment files as a gift. Seems your firewalls weren't entertained. The council erupted. Demands, threats, and questions layered over each other. Nathan's hologram simply raised a hand. No need to panic. Earth isn't declaring war. This isn't a war. It's just a learning exercise. The feed cut. On the council floor, chaos broke loose. Emergency protocols initiated. Fleets mobilized. Yet every command they issued, every jump calculation, every comm relay, filtered through systems already compromised by the virus. Orders twisted mid-transmission, coordinates inverted. Ships appeared in the wrong sectors, crashing into asteroid belts or orbiting dead moons. The galaxy's mightiest powers looked like children trying to chase smoke. In the Colorado bunker, Omar stared at the latest feed. "Sir, are we winning?" Nathan's eyes didn't leave the display. "Winning implies it's a competition. We're just returning the lesson." Lena frowned. "And what lesson is that?" Nathan turned toward her. His expression softened, but his voice was steady. "That underestimating humans is bad for business." Mason leaned back in his chair, boots on the console. "Never thought I'd see the day we outsmarted an empire with rom-coms." Nathan chuckled. "Never underestimate the power of human embarrassment. We've been training for this since middle school." Laughter rippled through the bunker, relief, pride, disbelief, but beneath it all hummed the same current, something deeper, colder. The quiet realization that they had crossed a line they could never uncross. Lena looked at Nathan again, more serious now. "You realize this means open hostility. They'll retaliate." "They already have," Nathan replied. "They just don't realize it yet." He gestured to the map. "Look. Every species that's attacked Earth in the past 72 hours now blames another for the virus. They're forming alliances based on fear. We didn't start a war, we started confusion." Outside, snow fell heavier. The hum of power generators merged with the distant thunder of jet engines as hidden Terran defense ships moved through the stratosphere, unseen. Nathan's gaze lingered on the holographic star map. For a moment, he seemed almost sad. "We tried diplomacy. They mocked it. We offered peace. They sanctioned it. So now," his fingers danced across the console, "we demonstrate applied curiosity." The console beeped softly. Across a dozen alien systems, dormant satellites turned toward their suns, transmitting bursts of encoded light. Within hours, every major galactic news outlet received a mysterious data packet. Inside was a simple message. "You taught us that strength is control. We're teaching you that control is fragile." Followed by a small attachment, a human emoji winking. When the message broadcast across the galaxy, millions of alien citizens saw it and froze. Governments fell silent. Religious sects formed overnight, worshipping the smiling code. Traders refused to use human networks. Entire planetary economies paused, waiting for Earth's next move. Back in the bunker, Mason looked pale. "Sir, they're calling us a contagion." Nathan set his mug down carefully. "They're not wrong." Lena swallowed. "What happens now?" Nathan glanced toward the ceiling, where snowmelt dripped down concrete like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. He smiled faintly, voice low. "Now we see who learns fastest." A transmission light blinked on the console, an incoming message from an unknown galactic relay. The voice was alien, trembling. "Humans, what do you want?" Nathan leaned forward, the light painting half his face in red. "Nothing you're willing to give," he said softly. "But don't worry, you'll understand soon enough." He ended the call. The bunker fell silent except for the hum of machines and the slow drift of snow outside. Nathan turned toward the others, his expression unreadable. "Prepare Phase 2, he said. Lena hesitated. "What's Phase 2? Nathan's smile returned, calm and deadly. "Patience. It's the second thing we're best at." The lights dimmed, screens flickering to black as coded commands shot into the void. Across the stars, the laughter stopped. For 72 hours, the galaxy held its breath. No human transmissions. No signals. No flicker of light from Earth. It was as if the entire species had vanished overnight, leaving only silence, and the silence was worse than war. The Intergalactic Council met in emergency session for the third time in as many days. The chamber was dim now, half its lights malfunctioning from the lingering effects of the Song virus. Data streams pulsed erratically along the walls like veins under pale skin. The Cloth Dominion's envoy slammed his claws against the table, voice cracking through static. "They are hiding. They must be preparing a counterattack. We must strike now, burn the Terran system to ash before they—" "Before they what?" interrupted the Chular ambassador, her translucent tendrils dimming in unease. "Before they sing again?" The room fell quiet. Even the translation drones hesitated, as if unwilling to echo her fear. The council leader turned toward the holographic star chart, hovering above the center of the room. Dozens of red markers blinked along the outer rim of Terran territory, entire fleets that had gone dark. "We have lost contact with every strike group assigned to the containment perimeter," the leader said softly. "No distress calls. No wreckage. No debris fields." The LNA representative's feathers ruffled nervously. "That's impossible. Even a total annihilation would leave signatures." "Unless," said another voice, low and almost reverent, "they were erased." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. For the first time in centuries, the oldest species in the galaxy were afraid of a younger one. Far from the Council's orbiting fortress, in a frozen asteroid belt where stars glimmered like knives, a single Terran warship drifted in darkness. No external lights. No transponders. Just a shape blending into the void. Inside, Nathan Briggs stood at the command deck, silent before a panoramic viewport of endless black. Lena approached him, her footsteps echoing softly on the metal floor. 3 days of silence, Captain. You're starting to worry even our people." Nathan didn't turn. "Good. Fear keeps us alert." Mason's voice crackled over the intercom from the lower deck. "Systems check complete. Drones prepped and waiting. No pings from the outer sensors. We're ghosts, boss." Nathan exhaled slowly. "Exactly where we need to be." Lena folded her arms, studying him. "You've been watching them panic for 72 hours. You could end this right now. Why wait?" "Because," Nathan said quietly, "every empire thinks it understands fear until it sits alone in the dark." He tapped a control panel. The viewport flickered, showing intercepted council feeds, panic transmissions, fleets colliding, commanders screaming for answers. Whole civilizations turning on one another out of paranoia. "They've been ruling for millennia," Nathan murmured. "They forgot what it's like to feel small. We're reminding them." Lena shook her head, voice trembling between admiration and dread. "You're turning silence into a weapon." He finally looked at her, eyes calm but shadowed. "We didn't invent that idea. Nature did. Predators go quiet before they strike." Below decks, Omar watched rows of dormant drones suspended in zero-gravity racks. They looked like sleeping insects, sleek, angular, patient. He whispered to Mason, "You think the captain ever gets scared?" Mason grinned faintly without looking up from his console. "Son, the man probably schedules his fear on Thursdays and cancels it by lunch." Omar laughed softly, though the sound felt small inside the cavernous ship. Then, from the ceiling, a faint chime pulsed. One of the drones had awakened. Its single optic lens glowed red. One after another, more lights flickered to life, forming constellations of crimson in the dark. "Captain," Mason called over comms. "You sure about this next part?" Nathan's voice came steady. "They wanted containment. Let's give them something worth containing." Outside, the first wave of drones slipped into the void, invisible to standard sensors. They carried no weapons, only signal amplifiers tuned to alien frequencies. Across dozens of systems, the drones began transmitting faint human laughter, distorted and echoing, layered with snippets of children's songs. Alien patrols intercepted the sound first. The recordings looped endlessly in empty space, whispering through comm systems like ghosts. The more the aliens tried to jam it, the louder it grew. Some believed it was coded communication. Others said it was psychological warfare. A few began to pray. On the third day, the Council received a message from a rescue team that had found the wreckage of the first Dominion fleet. The transmission was brief, trembling with static. Bodies everywhere, but they're smiling. Then silence. Back aboard the Terran ship, Lena stared at the report. "They're terrified. Some species are evacuating entire planets." Nathan nodded, his gaze distant. "Good. That means they're thinking. Fear breeds caution. Caution slows conquest." Mason's voice came through again, lower now. "And what about us, Captain? What's all this make us?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked out at the dark, where the invisible Earth hung behind the black curtain of stars. "It makes us students," he said finally. "Students who outgrew the teachers." Lena leaned against the console, her voice softer. "They'll never forgive us for this." "They don't have to," Nathan replied. "They just have to remember." A long silence followed, heavier than any threat. Even the hum of the engines seemed subdued, as if the ship itself understood the gravity of what it was becoming. Finally, Nathan turned from the window and activated the long-range sensor grid. Dozens of alien fleets glowed faintly on the display, scattered and disorganized, each one desperately scanning for a human presence that wasn't broadcasting. 3 days, he whispered. "That's how long it takes before the mind starts creating its own monsters." Lena frowned. "And what happens when they stop imagining and start attacking again?" He smiled faintly. "Then we give them something real to fear." The ship's AI, an emotionless voice named Lyra, spoke from the overhead speakers. "Captain, incoming transmission detected from the outer ring of the Chular system. It contains a single data string." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Let's see it." The screen filled with a pulsating alien symbol, looping endlessly. Lyra translated. Parley requested. "We wish to understand what humanity wants." Lena glanced at Nathan, startled. "They're asking for peace?" "Not peace," he murmured. "They're asking for reassurance. They want to know we're still human." "Are we?" she asked quietly. Nathan's expression softened, though his eyes betrayed a deep weariness. "We will be," he said. "After this is done." He turned to Mason's feed. "Recall the drones. Prepare the fleet." Mason hesitated. "Sir, that'll expose our position." Nathan nodded. "It's time they see what's been staring back from the dark." The crew exchanged silent looks. No one argued. One by one, the holographic displays came alive. Hundreds of Terran ships hidden in the debris fields, cloaked and waiting. Their engines flickered faintly like a constellation awakening. Lena whispered, "They'll know we were never just retaliating." "They'll know," Nathan said quietly. "We were adapting." He gave the order. Across the belt, the Terran fleet powered up. No fanfare, no battle cry, just the low, unified hum of engines awakening in synchrony. In that moment, even the stars seemed to pause, their light refracting across the glass of the viewport like shattered halos. Nathan watched the illumination spread and whispered to himself, 3 days of silence. That's all it takes to turn curiosity into fear." Then he straightened, his voice cutting through the stillness. "Signal the council." Lena turned to him, uneasy. "What should I tell them?" He smiled, a small, tired, dangerous smile. "Tell them Earth is ready to talk." Outside, the void shimmered as the fleet advanced, silent and slow, the promise of conversation carried on the edge of an approaching storm. The stars above Earth burned brighter than usual, as if the void itself were holding its breath. The Galactic Alliance fleet, 500 ships from 30 civilizations, emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a silver armada glinting against the pale light of Sol. From their command ship, the cloth Admiral Garrick surveyed the small blue planet with contempt. "End this experiment," he ordered. "Leave no trace of their arrogance." Engines roared. Targeting arrays locked. Weapons charged. Yet before the first shot could be fired, every ship's system froze. Lights dimmed. Consoles flickered. Across the fleet, officers shouted as displays turned black. Then a single human voice echoed through every comm channel. Calm, polite, unmistakable. "Good afternoon," said Captain Nathan Briggs. The fleet went still. "Before you fire," Nathan continued, his tone soft as velvet, "I'd like to extend a courtesy. You see, humanity believes in fairness, even when you don't." On the alien flagship, Garrick's scales shimmered red with rage. "Track that signal. Find him." But there was nothing to track. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Nathan's hologram appeared across every bridge, standing in full dress uniform, hands folded behind his back. Behind him shimmered the image of a vast Terran warship hidden in Jupiter's shadow, its surface black as obsidian. "Some of you think we're reckless," Nathan said. "That we strike without thinking. You're half right. We strike after thinking too much." The hologram smiled faintly. "Welcome to Operation Final Courtesy." Across the fleet, systems rebooted, but something had changed. Weapon coordinates scrambled. Thruster commands reversed. Dozens of cruisers spun out of formation, colliding in bright bursts of plasma. Panic erupted as navigation AIs began transmitting human code, friendly greetings laced with impossible logic loops. "Your fleets borrowed our technology," Nathan said, voice echoing through the chaos. "You reverse-engineered our ships. You didn't think we'd notice. So we gave you back your generosity, slightly improved." On Earth's surface, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lena monitored the live feed. Her hands shook as she watched the enemy armada disintegrate under its own confusion. "Nathan," she whispered into her comm, "you're turning their weapons against them." "That's the point," his voice replied from orbit. "Courtesy demands reciprocity." One by one, the Alliance ships began to fire, except the weapons turned inward. Energy beams folded back upon themselves, curving in arcs of white light that split hulls cleanly in two. 1,000 voices screamed across the network, merging into static. Lena covered her mouth. "God." "Not God," Nathan said quietly. "Just humans." Garrick slammed his claws into the command rail, roaring. "You can't win against the entire galaxy." Nathan's image turned toward him, eyes cold now. "We don't need to win. We just need to remind you who started this." Outside the viewport, Jupiter's shadow moved. From its darkness emerged the Terran fleet, dozens of warships built in secret, silent and sleek. Their hulls bore no insignia, only numbers and old names etched in faint white. Truman, Artemis, Freedom, Ghost. The alien admiral's breath caught. "Impossible." "Not impossible," Nathan said. "Just unexpected." The human fleet advanced with quiet precision. No battle cries. No threats. Just the steady hum of engines resonating like a heartbeat. Alien ships fired blindly into the dark, their blasts reflecting off invisible barriers. Mirrored shields built from hybridized alien tech. Each energy pulse bent backward, slicing through their own lines. "Stop firing!" Garrick screamed. "They're reflecting." His words dissolved into static as his ship exploded, fragments scattering like ash in sunlight. Nathan stood in silence, watching from the command deck of the Resolute. His crew moved efficiently around him, faces grim but calm. Omar's voice trembled through the comms. "Sir, the fleet's collapsing." "Orders." "Save who surrenders," Nathan said. "Disable, don't destroy. We're not monsters." Lena's voice cracked in his earpiece. "They'd never offer us that mercy. That's why we have to." The words hung heavy in the air. Outside, fire consumed the void. Ships detonating in slow, silent waves, their debris catching the sun like dying stars. Nathan's reflection glimmered against the viewport, his expression unreadable. Mason's voice joined the comms. "Captain, transmission from the Council. They're asking for a ceasefire." Nathan nodded. "Put it through." The Council leader appeared in holographic form, its translucent face trembling. "You've proven your point, Captain Briggs. End this now. What do you want?" Nathan's answer came softly, almost kindly. "Respect. And distance. You've killed thousands." "Correction," he said evenly. "I stopped you from killing millions. You came to burn our planet. We simply returned your invitation." The leader's voice faltered. What are you?" Nathan's gaze drifted toward the fading wrecks outside. "We're what happens when curiosity meets desperation. We study, we adapt, we survive. That's our nature." Lena listened from the command room, her throat tight. She realized the man standing out there wasn't the same gentle diplomat who once joked about barbecue and peace talks. He'd become something colder, something born from the silence of humiliation and the fire of resolve. The Council's image flickered. "You cannot rule through fear, human. It will consume you." Nathan tilted his head slightly. You misunderstand. We don't rule. We endure. Then the hologram vanished. The battlefield fell eerily calm. The surviving alien ships powered down, adrift among the remnants of their armada. From Earth, human rescue shuttles launched, retrieving prisoners and survivors without discrimination. No one cheered. No one celebrated. Lena watched as medbays filled with both species, their wounds glowing under sterile lights. We did it, she whispered, but her voice carried no triumph. Nathan's transmission came faintly over the speakers, heavy with exhaustion. We didn't win, Lena. We just reminded them we exist. He turned from the viewport and looked at the young cadet beside him. Omar's eyes were wide, face pale. Sir, what if they come back? Nathan exhaled slowly. Then we'll greet them again, with another courtesy. Outside, the Terran fleet repositioned, their ships forming a quiet ring around the fragile blue planet below. In the distance, the sun burned orange, spilling light across the ruins of the greatest armada ever assembled. On the Council's remaining ship, alien officers stared at the data logs left behind by the virus. Buried in the corrupted code was a single human message, simple and devastating. We offered peace. You mistook it for weakness. Mistakes are how we learn. Back on the Resolute, Nathan stood alone in the dimmed bridge. The silence after battle was different. It was heavier, filled with echoes of things unsaid. He thought of the Council's laughter months ago, the mockery, the arrogance. They'd thought humanity incapable of retaliation. Now they would never forget. Lena entered quietly, her uniform smudged with oil and blood. It's over, Nathan. They're gone. He didn't look at her. No. They're retreating. There's a difference. You think they'll try again? They will, he said softly. Because that's what civilizations do when they're afraid. They try to control what they don't understand. Lena hesitated, then asked, And what do we do now? Nathan turned to face her, the faint reflection of distant fires glinting in his eyes. We rebuild. We remember. And we stay quiet long enough for them to start wondering again. He stepped closer to the viewport, his voice lowering to a near whisper. The galaxy learned fast. But so did we. Outside, debris drifted like stardust over the curve of the Earth. The Terran fleet dimmed its lights, engines fading into silence once more. In that silence, Nathan Briggs smiled faintly and murmured the final line of his broadcast, one he'd recorded days before the war began. Courtesy is our kindness. Silence is our warning. And as the last human transmission faded into the dark, the galaxy listened.